can't get high from it. If you use it raw in smoothies and shakes and salads, you can't get high because you have to raise the temperature over 240 in order to get any psychoactive effect at all. But the drug companies stand to lose, unfortunately. You'll meet people today who use it for ALS. Some of the most expensive drugs made in this country are for ALS, and not terribly effective. The list is so long of things that can be treated with cannabis, and the savings to the taxpayer, to the drug user, to the insurance companies is billions upon trillions of dollars. And what doesn't make sense is any reason that's given today to keep this plant as Schedule 1, no medical use, which defines Schedule 1, and dangerous, which defines Schedule 1. Well, there are 10,000 medical reports done in the last 10 years, research reports from major universities, yet the government does. I don't see them. Where are they? We haven't researched it enough. There are patients today being treated with medical marijuana supplied by the federal government. The man who will be speaking today, Irv Rosenfeld, Irv has gotten free medical marijuana, and he wouldn't be alive without it, from the federal government. The whole 29 years I was in federal prison for importing marijuana, Uncle Sam was sending him 300 joints a month to treat a disease that they know would have killed him and other people. In fact, the guy who stopped the program, George Bush, the first one, he wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for marijuana, cannabis. You know, the parachute he used in World War II was made of hemp, and all the rigging was made of hemp. And the oil in his plane to lubricate the engines, hemp oil is the finest machine oil in the world. We have to import it. But it was hemp oil that kept his plane flying. It was every bit of rope and rigging on the ship that saved him was made out of hemp. The shoes he was wearing, the stitching was hemp, and today we import hemp to stitch every good pair of shoes in America. And he wouldn't be alive today if it wasn't for him. Yet he was the person who closed the compassionate care program that was providing medical marijuana. Why? Because it was the beginning of the AIDS epidemic. They knew that the one thing that strengthens your immune system, because your endocannabinoid system works through your immune system, was marijuana. And the demand for people who had contracted AIDS was high. And if you recall, back in those days, our government had no sympathy for AIDS victims. It was considered a terrible disgrace. Politicians talked out against it. And the last thing in the world they wanted to do was supply AIDS patients with medical marijuana.
I want to wrap up with going back to you personally and your story. You've spent so many years in prison. First of all, how do you respond to the critics that say, this guy was a criminal and now you want to listen to him talk about what's good for our lives, for our health? And second of all, what is it like for you emotionally to come out here after that much time in prison and talk about this issue?
Well, I told you I had no plans to become an activist or talk about the issue. The compulsion comes from the need. And very honestly, if I can stop one person from going to prison like I did, or help change the law so that the millions of people in prison in the U.S. today have their sentences mitigated, released. And how do I feel as a criminal? I never committed a crime against person. I never committed a crime against property. I never committed a crime against society. And back in our day, in the 70s, when I was in the marijuana business, 26 states had decriminalized marijuana to one degree or another. In Alaska, you could grow 200 pounds. Use it, sell it, do what you want with it. Even Texas had decriminalized marijuana. So, was I a criminal? I thought I was just coming up on the wave that was happening. No, I never regarded myself as any type of social pariah, despite the fact that when the government prosecutes you to the degree that I was prosecuted, then you are accused of being a drug czar. Every week they announced that they had found a plot to kill a witness, kill a judge, kill a this, because how else are they going to give me that much time? But every one of those great revelations was later withdrawn because there never were any plots. Oh, well, it was some informant who told us. Oh, well, this was a jailhouse plot. And so they eventually said, no, we were mistaken. He was never going to do any of these terrible things. But people forget those little parts in the newspaper because they're way in the back, and they do remember the headlines. Black Tuna gang, drug czar, biggest importer of marijuana. Well, we weren't any of those things. But I've been able to use the infamy they gave me to establish my ability to go out and be an activist, get people's attention. People want to read my book, Black Tuna Diaries. Millions of people have already seen Square Grouper, and it's about to go up on cable TV and be shown ad nauseum. So why not use that for good? And that's exactly what I'm doing. I've run into very little skepticism, very little criticism. Some of my greatest supporters now are judges, former judges, people from law enforcement, from the organization called the League, which are all ex-police chiefs, DEA agents who realize and feel very guilty about having ever put anybody away for marijuana. You shouldn't do one day, let alone 29 and a half years like I did.
Just so that I have it one more time, just sort of in one shot, what is the Silver Tour?
The Silver Tour is designed to teach seniors the facts about medical marijuana, to overcome their fears. They come up and they ask questions. They say, well, I don't want to smoke it. What can I do? You tell them about vaporizers. You tell them about brownies. You tell them about tinctures, about oils, about things that doctors use in the legal states. And then they want access to it for themselves. They have questions like, well, I take 7 different medicines. How is it going to affect them? And they get a chance to ask a doctor. And the doctor who's treated thousands of patients will tell them there is no interaction between cannabis and any medicine you're taking. But you'll find that you can ease off the opiates. You know, the VA now accepts it to treat PSTD in the states where it's legal. It's great to get our veterans off of opiates and things like Ritalin and put them on something that will allow them to function and have quality of life. The man who was responsible for lobbying the Veterans Association is part of the Silver Tour. He'll be here today, Al Burr. Well, all we really have to do is allay their fears. We don't have to sell medical marijuana. These guys smoked it back then. They know that it's pretty good. And if you can go to bed with a smile instead of a butterfly, you're so much better off.
Cool. Anything that I've missed throughout that? You've given me a lot of info.
Well, I just want to give you what you want to work with.
Yeah. You understand the switch we use on CNN, CNNmoney.com, all of our affiliates?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thanks for the time. Anybody can put another wireless mic on here? Just